Welcome back to another very exciting tutorial here at the PhotoshopTrainingChannel.com. My name is Jesus Ramirez, and you can find me on Instagram at JRFromPTC. In this video, we're going to look at the top new features of Adobe Photoshop CC 2017. After you watch this video, don't forget to head over to my website, PhotoshopTrainingChannel.com, so you can read about the smaller changes not covered in this video. If you're new to the Photoshop Training channel, then don't forget to subscribe for more free tutorials. Okay, let's get started. When you first open up Photoshop CC 2017, you'll be greeted with the Start Workspace. This is not new to this version of Photoshop. In fact, it was introduced in the November 2015 update of Photoshop CC. When you first launch Photoshop CC 2017, you're going to be greeted with the Start Workspace. This is the screen that is displayed when you first launch Photoshop or whenever no documents are open. As with previous versions of the Start Workspace, you get access to the recent files. That is what's selected by default. Currently, I have no recent files since this is a new installation of Photoshop and I haven't yet opened any files. So instead, I have the opportunity to create a new document by clicking on the Start New button. The biggest change to this start screen is the removal of the Libraries and Presets tabs and the addition of the CC Files tab here. This new CC Files tab gives you access to the last 50 PSD files that have been synced to your Creative Cloud account. These files will also include PSD assets that you have uploaded from the Creative Cloud market. PSDs are currently the only file type supported in the CC Files tab, but additional formats and filtering controls are expected to be added in future versions of Photoshop. To exit the Start Workspace, you can click on the Start Workspace button and select any of the other ones, for example, Essentials. Or you can simply press the Escape key on the keyboard. If you would like to completely disable the start screen, you can bring up the Preferences panel by pressing Ctrl K, that's Command K on the Mac. And under the General tab, uncheck Show Start Workspace when no documents are open. Doing so will disable the start screen permanently. I'm going to leave mine checked since I do like the Start Work screen. I've mentioned that the Start Workspace doesn't have any recent files currently, but obviously in the future it will have a list, and if you want to edit the number of recent files that are displayed on this list, you can open up the Preferences panel once again, Ctrl K, Command K on the Mac, and under File Handling, under Recent File List Contains, you can put any number you like in here between 0 and 100. 20 is okay for me, so once again I'm just going to hit the Escape key. And those are the new features in the Start Workspace in Adobe Photoshop CC 2017. Another big change in Adobe Photoshop CC 2017 can be found in the New Document window. You can access the New Document window by pressing the keyboard shortcut Ctrl N to create a new document, or selecting the New button in the Start Workspace, or by going into File and New. And this is what the New Document window looks like now. And the items that you'll see by default are the most recent. In this case, default Photoshop size, a template that I've used, and we're going to talk more about templates in a moment, and different custom Photoshop sizes that I've created. And if you have something on your clipboard, such as a screenshot, or maybe you copied an image, you're also going to have a clipboard size. To the right, you have the preset details. Notice that if I click on default Photoshop size, the properties on the right-hand side are adjusted. We have width, height, and the different units of measurement. You can change orientation by clicking on these icons here. So notice right now we have width of 7, height of 5, but if I change the orientation to portrait, you'll see those two swap. I can check this box to create an artboard with my new document. I have the resolution, color modes, bit depth, background contents. Notice that right now you only see white, black, and background color, but if I click and drag on this scroll bar, there's more options. So you have transparent, and custom. You can of course click on this color swatch to bring up the color picker for the new document background. Color profiles, and the pixel aspect ratio. You can also save new document presets by clicking on this icon here. So for example, when I create a new article on my website, photoshoptrainingchannel.com, I use a feature image that is 970 by 413, and I use a resolution of 72 pixels, and all the other settings are fine for this example. And if I click on this icon here to save the preset, I can name it feature image PTC for my website, click on save preset, and now I have access to this preset every time I create a new document. You can find it under the Save tab. So you will start out on the Recent tab, click on Save, and there it is. If you don't like it, you can delete it, and now it's gone. Now the biggest addition to Photoshop CC 2017 in terms of creating new documents is the photo, print, art illustration, web, mobile, and film video categories. If I click on photo, you'll see that we have blank document presets. That's sort of what we just talked about, just blank documents with different width, heights, resolution, and things like that. But the biggest addition is the templates that you can download from Adobe Stock. We're going to work with this example a little later on, but essentially what all these different templates do is allow you to get started on a project much more quickly. You can click on the template to read about what it contains. Currently, you can download over 100 free templates. You also see the file size, and you can click on See Preview to see a preview of what the template looks like. I can close the preview, and we have all different kinds of templates. We have brochures, business cards, mock-ups, and just a whole bunch of stuff that you can download and get started quickly. I'm just going to go through most of them really quick just so you can see the difference between them. The web category includes responsive website layouts. The mobile category includes mobile UI kits and also iPhone mockups. Film and video contains title graphics and graphic overlays and things like that. So Photoshop is making it really easy for you to get started right away. And also one other thing that you can do in the new document dialog box is search for content on Adobe Stock. So now let's quickly see how these templates work. I'm going to click on the Photo tab to open up one of these templates, and I already have this one here. It's called Texture Geometric Mask. If I click on it, I can open it, and you'll see this blue circle with a white check mark on it. This means that this is already in my CC library. If I select another template that I haven't yet downloaded, then I would have to first download that template. So this is what you'll have to do the first time that you try to use one of these templates. So I'm going to click on this one here that I've already downloaded, and I'm going to click on the Open button. Photoshop is going to open up that template, and you can see it here. They're all different, but the way this one works is we have all these layers that we can disable and enable to create different geometric masks. And we have this placeholder here. It's a smart object, so if I double click on it, it opens up a new tab, and I can place whatever photo I want here and apply it to the template. So I have my libraries window here. I have an image from Adobe Stock. I'm just going to simply click and drag that into this template, and of course you can use whatever image you want for your template. And I'm just going to scale this up just so we can see how this works. I'm going to move this over to the right, and I'm just going to hit enter, and I'm going to press Control S, Command S on the Mac to save, and I'm going to go back into the working document by clicking on the tab here, and you can see the result there. Now I can keep enabling or disabling layers to create different geometric shapes or different geometric masks. I can also go into Window, Arrange, to up, Vertical, and I can see both tabs at the same time, so that if I select the Move tool, I can click and drag this around and then hit Control S, Command S on the Mac to save, and it automatically updates on the window on the left. So then that can help me composite this a little bit easier and faster. So every time you see it updating here on the left, it's because I'm pressing Control S, Command S to save. Now, just to quickly show you what happens in the libraries panel, there's a new stock templates library where all your templates are going to be saved, and they're saved in a format called PSD-T, but when you open them in Photoshop, they become PSD documents. Those are regular Photoshop files. Any change that you make to the PSD will not affect the original .psd template. And the last thing I want to show you is how to disable the new document window in case you don't like it and you want to go back to the old new document window. So you can press Ctrl K, Command K on the Mac to bring up the preferences window, and under General, select Use Legacy New Document Interface. If I check that and press OK, next time I bring up the new document window, you will get the Legacy New Document Interface. I like the new one, so I'm going to keep using the new one. So I'm going to uncheck this box and press OK. One of the biggest and best additions to Adobe Photoshop CC 2017 is the powerful multi-scope search. You can think about it as Google inside of Photoshop. It is a great tool for both beginner and experienced users alike. You can use the search feature to quickly find tools, menus, tutorials, tips, assets, documents, layers, and much, much more, all from within a unified dialog box inside of Photoshop. Search integrates with Adobe Stock to find stock assets and with helpx.adobe.com to retrieve relevant help documentation. To show you how search works, we're going to work with these two files. This is a tutorial that I've done in the past on how to create window reflections, and this file here that shows you how to create color grades in Photoshop. Both tutorials can be found on my website, photoshoptrainingchannel.com. But anyway, here we are in the window reflection.psd file. To bring up the search feature, you can press Ctrl F, that's Command F on the Mac. Now, before we go further, I should point out that Ctrl F or Command F used to be the reapply the last filter used keyboard shortcut. So this new feature took over that shortcut. So if you want to reapply the last used filter, you have to hold Ctrl Alt F, that's Command Option F on the Mac. But anyway, let me show you how the search feature works inside of Photoshop. I'm going to click inside the search box and I'm just going to start typing. Notice that as I'm typing, Photoshop automatically starts giving me results before I even finish typing the keyword. So it's very fast and very accurate. Notice that by default, the All tab is active. This is showing me the results from 3 different categories available in the search box. We have the Photoshop search results, the Learn search results, and the Stock search results. You can sort by category by clicking on the tab labels underneath the search box. Photoshop, Learn, Stock. Photoshop search results are search results that you would find through the Photoshop user interface. That includes filters, layers, menus, new document presets, open documents, panels, recent files, smart object, and tools. Learn gives you documentation or instructional material from the helpx.adobe.com website. And Stock gives you search results from Adobe Stock, and this includes photos, illustration, videos, and templates. One of the reasons why I really like the search feature is that you can perform tasks and operations associated with the search result by clicking on any of the results. This will, of course, save you a lot of time, and it can also help you find or discover functionality that you may not have known existed. What I'm going to do now is show you the different types of search results that you get and what happens when you click on the search results. This is why we have these 2 files here. So the first thing I'm going to show you is what happens when you get a layer as a search result. So I'm going to press Ctrl F, and I know that I have a layer titled Busy City. So I'm just going to type in the word busy. And before I even finish typing the word busy, notice that I already get the result here, Busy City. And it's inside a group called Window Reflection Effect in the current document that I'm in the active document. Notice that the group is here, Window Reflection Effect, there it is. If I click on that search result, it will open up that group and select that layer. If I go into a different document, however, and search for the same layer, it will not come up. The search only finds layers in the active document. So watch what happens when I come back into the window reflection document and press Control F again. There it is, Busy City. You can also search for tools. So if I want to use the quick selection tool, I can just type in the word quick and right away I get the quick selection tool. Notice the keyboard shortcut on the right hand side. You also get that. And if I click on it, it highlights it and selects it in the toolbar. I can also activate panels. So if I want to activate the channels panel, I can just type in channels. There it is, channels panel. Also notice the icon to the left of the search result. That helps you determine what the actual search result is in case you have two search results with the same name. So channels panel, click, it opens the panel and highlights it as you can see here. I'm gonna go back into the layers panel and I'm gonna collapse this just so we can see what's gonna happen here. I'm gonna create a new layer, it's a blank layer, and I can also search for filters. So I'm gonna press Control F, Command F to bring up the search panel, and I can type the name of a filter. So let's try clouds. There it is, filter clouds, and I can click on that and notice that I automatically apply the clouds filter. That is the same as going into filter, render, clouds. I'm going to delete this layer by tapping the delete key on the keyboard, and now I'm going to do the same thing again, but this time I have a group selected. Control F, Command F to bring up the search panel. And this time, if I use the same filter, notice that nothing happens because I have a group selected. And actually, if I reset the search and type in clouds again, notice that this time clouds comes out as unavailable. The reason that it was showing a moment ago is because we hadn't cleared the search. But once we clear the search, Photoshop did find the clouds filter, but it's telling us that it's unavailable because of the currently selected object in the layers panel. The search panel can also help us find and apply menu commands. So let me show you how that works. Maybe you want to apply a layer mask to this group that hides everything. So I can type in the word hide, and you'll see one of the search results is hide all. If you look right under that, you'll see layer mask, hide all. If I click on it, it will create a layer mask that will hide all the contents of the group. I'm going to undo that, Control Alt Z, Command Option Z on the Mac. That is the same thing as holding Alt Option on the Mac and clicking on a new layer mask icon. And just to show you, you can go into layer mask, hide all, and it does the same thing. The search command also allows you to open a recent file. So if I go into my recent file list, you can see that I have 3 files here. Window reflection, which is the one we're currently on. Cinematic color grading, which is the other file open. And another file that is not open, selection mask.psd. So let's search for that. Control F, Command F on the Mac, selection. There it is, selection mask.psd. And if I click on that recent document, it opens up in a new tab. You can also search for open documents. So I can press Control F, Command F on the Mac, click on the X to reset my search. And this time I can type in the name of the other open document, which is cinematic color grading. So if I type in the word cinematic, it comes right up here on the list. I can click on it and Photoshop activates that open document. If you search for help and learn topics, you will open up the helpx document. So I can search for the word crop, and notice here, this is one of the helpx documents. So I can click on that, and Photoshop opens up your default browser and goes to that page. Here we are at the helpx.adobe.com page, and we have all the relevant information and documentation on the crop tool. I'm going to bring up the search bar again. I'm going to leave crop, and then I'm going to click on stock. And these are the Adobe stock search results that we get with this keyword. So I could click on one. It will automatically upload it into my active Creative Cloud library and place it onto my document. So there it is. I can hit enter and I can start working with this layer. If I want to license the image, I can select it and click on license image. I'm not going to do that for this image. I'm just going to delete this layer for now. I'm going to bring up the search bar again. So Control F, Command F. I'm going to hit all, And this search feature is actually really powerful. The algorithm is really smart and it can recognize synonyms. So I can type in the word retouch and notice what happens. I get tools related to retouching. So this is truly a really powerful feature in Photoshop. The search feature in Photoshop CC 2017 is available in all the languages that Photoshop is available in, and that is 24 different languages. A couple of the things that you can't search for using the search feature is library elements or individual styles. So I recommend that you use the search feature as much as possible. You might know that something is inside of Photoshop, but you may not remember exactly where. This is going to help you solve that issue. You can just start typing and right away you're going to see the results that'll get you to where you want to be. One of the biggest enhancements to type in Photoshop CC 2017 is the addition of SVG Color Fonts to the list of supported font types. SVG fonts support multiple colors and gradients in a single glyph. Photoshop CC 2017 ships with two SVG fonts, the Trajan Color Concept and the Emoji 1 font. Yes, this means that you can now use emojis in Photoshop. So let me show you how to work with these SVG fonts. I'm going to click on the type tool, and I'm also going to make sure that my glyphs panel is enabled. There's two ways you can get to it: by going into Window, Glyphs, or by using the Graphic and Web Design Workspace. So I'm going to select that one, and here it is on the right hand side. Then I'm going to select a font called Trajan Color. You can see the SVG font icon here. That's what it looks like. I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to type PTC. And as you can see, this font has colors and gradients attached to it. Now, the reason that we open up the glyphs panel is so that we can see the entire font list. Many of these fonts do not have corresponding keys to the characters found within the font. And you'll see what I mean by that when we use the Emoji 1 font. And in other cases, using the keys on the keyboard will only give you one color scheme, even though there'll be many others included in the font, like in this case. Notice the glyphs panel here. If I click and drag up, you'll see all the different variations of the font that we have. There's a lot of different colors. There's two ways in which you can select a different type of character or a different color character. I can select the character and then go over into the glyphs panel and double click on the alternate character that I want to use. A faster way is by hovering over this shaded box below the character, and then you can see the different types of P's that we have. So maybe we want to apply a blue P. So I'm going to click on that, and there it is. The P is now blue. And I can do that for all the other characters, of course. Or I can click on this icon here to go into the glyphs panel, and it will only show me the alternates for the currently selected character. Watch what happens when I break this text apart. So I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to select Convert to Shape. Now this is a shape layer that is being controlled by this layer here. If I double click on it, I can bring up the foreground color picker and select the color. I could also click on it with the direct selection tool and select the points of the text to adjust them any way I want. So that is a really powerful capability. I'm going to go ahead and delete this layer, and now we're going to look at the Emoji 1 font. I'm going to click on the type tool, and I'm going to select the Emoji 1 font. Here it is, Emoji 1. As you can see, it's also an SVG type font. And I'm going to click on here, and I'm also going to type PTC. Notice that I did not get any emojis. But if I go into the entire font dropdown under the glyphs, under Emoji 1, you'll see all the different emojis that I have. So for example, I can double click here and add a happy face. And there's a whole bunch of others, as you can see there on the list. Now, the really cool thing about the Emoji 1 font is that you can create composite glyphs. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm just going to go ahead and delete the layer, and I'm going to start from scratch. Make sure that I have the Emoji 1 font selected. I'm going to click, and what I'm going to do now is go into one of these characters here. You'll see a list of letters, and watch what happens when I enter two at the same time. The letter U, and then the letter S. I get the American flag. So you can use country codes to create other emojis. We're compositing emojis together. Let me show you how that works once again. I'm going to double click on M, then on X, and we get the Mexican flag. If we go for the in E, we get the German flag. As long as you enter a country code, you should get a resulting flag. I also want to point out that if you hit the delete key or backspace key, you won't delete the actual flag emoji. Watch what happens with the German flag. I'm just going to hit backspace once. I get a D. That is because that emoji was composed of two other emojis, the D emoji and the E emoji. So we hit delete once, we delete the second one, which is the letter E, and we're left only with the letter D. For Mexico, MX, we hit delete once, we delete the X and keep the M. And you probably guessed it, with the US, if we delete once, we'll keep the U. And that's how you can break apart the emojis that you composite together. There's also a different type of compositing that you can do with the emojis. I'm going to go ahead and select one of these yellow body parts. For example, this hand here, this pointing hand. And I can also click on any one of these circles which represent skin color to change the skin color of that hand. So I can double click on this darker skin color and watch what happens. We added that skin color to that hand. If I hit backspace on the keyboard, I delete the color. So once again, two emojis are creating one. If I add one of these emojis here with the hard hat, I can come back and select one of those color swatches again, and the skin color changes. And just like before, we can right click on the layer and we can convert the item to a shape, path, or rasterize. Rasterize will obviously be a pixel layer. If I go into shape, you'll see the shape that makes up this emoji. And again, you can click and drag to adjust the points. Just as a side note, if you're trying to do this skin color changing technique, it doesn't work with glyphs that contain more than one person, so keep that in mind. And that's how you work with SVG fonts in Photoshop CC 2017. In this video, we're going to talk about the smaller changes to Adobe CC 2017. We're going to start out by the changes to the Properties panel. There it is, Properties. If you don't see that, you can go into Windows, Properties. And I'm just going to create a new layer, and I'm going to create a custom shape using pixels. And I'm just going to select this shape and make a pixel-based layer. Notice the Properties panel now allows me to make adjustments to the width and height of that pixel layer. So I can also click in there and use the up and down arrow keys on the keyboard to make changes, and I can hit enter when I'm done to make the transformation. With the text tool, I'm just going to type in PTC, and you'll notice the Properties panel now allows you to select the font, font size, justification, and color. So I can double click on the text layer to select it, adjust the color to maybe red, change the font size if I need to, and the justification, I can make this bold italic, and you get the idea. So now you have a lot more control over your text in the Properties panel. Another of the smaller changes was in the Libraries panel. And one of the changes to the Library panel is that you can now undo anything that you delete. So if I hit the trash can button here, Photoshop is going to ask me if I want to undo that file being deleted. Now, if you wait a little while, it'll disappear and you can't undo the deletion of the item. But if you delete something, you can right away hit undo and then it'll come back. So that's one of the changes in this version. I'm going to go into a library called My Library. And this library has a bunch of images, but the one that I'm looking for is this one called Background. I'm going to double click on it just so that you could see it. And this is an image that I took. It's not a stock image, but one of the new additions to Photoshop CC 2017 is the ability to search for images that look like images that you shot, not necessarily other stock images. So I can right click on it and choose Find Similar. So Adobe Stock is going to try to find images that are similar to the image that I shot. So this is a great addition to the search capability in Adobe Stock. Another small change to Photoshop CC 2017 that I like is the highlight color. Notice this layer is currently selected and it's a light gray. That is letting me know that this is selected. But if I press Ctrl K, Command K on the Mac and bring up the Preferences panel, then I can go into Interface and I have this drop down here, highlight color. I can select blue, and now anything that is selected is in blue. So I like that. It makes it easier to see than the default color. So look at the interface label here. It also changes to blue. So I think I will keep that on. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to double click on the padlock there to remove the background and turn it into a regular pixel layer. There it is. And another change worth mentioning is under Edit and Copy Special. It no longer says Copy Merge. Now we have to go onto the drop down here for the Copy Merge is on top there. The keyboard shortcut is the same, so you don't have to worry about that. But in addition to that, we have Copy CSS and Copy SVG. So I'll quickly show you what the CSS one does. I'm going to make a shape, and I'm just going to create an ellipse, black, foreground color, no stroke. Then I'm going to add a layer style with a drop shadow. Green is fine, and I can add an inner stroke of red of 15 pixels, and that's good. Then I'm going to go into Edit, Copy Special, Copy CSS. If you're a web developer, then you know what CSS is. It's code that allows you to style HTML. And I'm going to bring up this Notepad++, and I can paste the code on here. And you can see the code that is generated based off the layer styles. So we have the border width of 15 pixels, just like I said it here, and all the other different types of settings that this object has so that you could apply it to a CSS file. And that is all. Let me know what you think about the new features of Adobe Photoshop CC 2017 by leaving a comment down below. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to share it with a friend and click on that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Photoshop training channel now. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.